Chamge missing, Chitap Kalenjin, and we took Legate Natrabacas TV, Akas FM International, Kimite, Eng Sule Tabarak, Notanaba University of Eldoret, Ole Eng Betabrani, get Nigeljin missing, Kitine, Kiogindet Nabai Met of America, and Gimoni, Notako Margaret Meg Whitman, ne Meso Honage, Amnesgomi, and counties Chotak Chibar Norep, and counties Chotak Chibar North Rift. Ago Eng Betabrani, Haruto Jiburi Kyotak Terchibot, Elgio Maraquet, Koko County Nobo Singishu. Akabe Port County, not about Tanzania. I'm going to run to investigate saying that Amunes go me and county, not about what's in issue. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can I say Excellency?
You can say Meg.
Meg. Welcome to Eldoret.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
This is not your first time being here?
It's not my first time. My first time was for the Devolution Conference. Yes. Do you remember? About 2 years ago.
We remember. So maybe in brief, tell us about your visit, maybe to North Rift regions.
Yeah.
Yesterday we saw you were in Tanzania, Kitale.
Yes.
Wasingishu, visiting governor's office. Today you are in Elgeyo Marakwet.
Yes.
What's all about this visit?
Well, it's really a chance for me to get out even more to counties. This is my 28th county. So I am delighted to have spent a little time in the North Rift. And I'd not been to Kitale before, and I'd not been to Itan before. So it's just a chance to see the work that we do in these counties, to understand the needs of each of the counties, to visit at the University of Eldoret. I try to go to a university every time I go out, because I love interacting with the students. And so it just gets me more, I understand more every time I go out about.
So we can say this is a familiarization tour, yes, or just a development
you just
tour?
learn things.
Okay.
You just learn things. And I like to say that in any business or organization, truth is not at the headquarters. Truth is out in the field.
Okay.
And so that's why I've been out.
A little bit, tell us about the relationship between maybe Kenya, Washington, in America.
Yeah.
How is the relationship between the two countries?
Well, I think the relationship is very strong. We have been partners for 60 years, since your independence in 1964. In fact, this year we were celebrating our 60th anniversary of cooperation. And it spans so many different areas. It spans defense and counterintelligence to combat al-Shabaab in Somalia. It's health. We do a lot of support for the Kenyan healthcare system. It's humanitarian aid. It's education. It's also economic development and helping Kenya attract foreign direct investment to help create jobs and create a business environment where even Kenyan companies can even be bigger and grow stronger. So it's a multi-dimensional and I think very strong relationship.
Thank you. Maybe there have been allegations that the U.S. is turning a blind eye to reported cases by Kenyan government, such cases including abductions. Maybe what's your take?
I think it's actually a wrong perception. We have been quite vocal about our commitment to democratic values. And by the way, we share democratic values with Kenya. But from the beginning of the Mandamanos in June, we joined in a statement with other heads of mission. We made our own statement. We had our Undersecretary for Human Rights come to visit Kenya and speak with government officials, including your president. I've done quite a few media interviews like this, which is we are all about privacy, rights to free speech, police accountability, and trying to make sure that we can provide our small voice to the direction that Kenya takes.
So America is very concerned.
Say again?
So America is concerned about Kenya.
I mean, I wouldn't say we're concerned about Kenya. Yes. I think we care a lot about the right to free speech. I think we admire your Gen Z and their commitment to a better Kenya and to bringing forth some of their issues.
So, do you think enough has been done with the respect of addressing the issues that came out during the Gen Z's protest? They were calling for the good governance. Right. Jobs and corruption. Maybe what's your take about the
Well,
Gen
there's always more work to do. But I will say the Gen Zs, those I have interacted with, sometimes say we didn't feel like we accomplished very much. But I think the Gen Z did accomplish quite a bit. First of all, the finance bill was pulled down. There was a new head of police installed. The cabinet was released and reinstated. And that's actually quite a bit of change when you think about governments. More work to do on, I think, some of the other issues that you raised. But we know in America that democracy is a work in process.
So Gen Zs achieved what they were
Well, I think they certainly began the discussion, and they did make some pretty big changes.
Maybe what are your accomplishments so far regarding the mandate of the U.S. ambassador in Kenya?
Well, every ambassador, sort of sets to some degree what they think are the most important things that they can influence. And when I first got here, we were very concerned about the length of time it took to get an interview for a visa. When I arrived, it took 2 years to get an interview for a visa to the United States, in large part because of COVID. And we're now down to 3 months, which is not perfect, but it's better. And we still hear lots of complaints from Kenyans, but we're really doing our best to get as many Kenyans to America as we can. We've processed 30% more visas this year than we did in 2019, which was the first year before COVID. The second thing is, I think we do very good work here on humanitarian aid. When I arrived, it was the 4th year of failed rains. I think 2.5 million cows had died in Kenya. There were people who were very food insecure. And we contributed the single largest amount of humanitarian aid to Kenya during that very difficult time. And then, probably where I've tried my hardest is around foreign direct investment in Kenya and changing the narrative on Africa and Kenya in the United States.
So you were here when Gen Zs were demonstrating and protesting here in Kenya?
Yes, I was.
Yeah,
So yeah, someone said I had flown out of the country. I was right here.
So what do you have?
Well, actually, where I was here.
Yes.
And then I went home on vacation. And I went on vacation probably, can't remember, early part of June. And I had just arrived in the United States, and the Mandamanos, I saw it on TV, and I came back. I was just in the United States for 3 days, and then I came back.
Okay. So what's your advice to those youths who are the Gen Zs now?
Right now?
Yeah.
I would say, I think the issues of employment, the issues of good governance, the issues of accountability are the right issues. And, every society, it's often the young people who make change. And so I would just encourage them to make their voices heard and be committed to, the democracy that is a work in process.
So recently, CIA director was here in Kenya. And on Monday, where he met President Dr. William Ruto, NIS, and he met the director for NIS, Nurdin Haji.
Yes.
Maybe you can say that Kenya, we are a little bit down in terms of security. Or what was the visit?
The Director General was in the region and actually came to Kenya to say thank you for the excellent cooperation that we have with the intelligence services and really counterterrorism. And so it was really he was in the region, wanted to drop down to Kenya and say thank you and connect over shared area of interest.
Okay, maybe lastly, what are the 3 Kenyan towns you've already visited?
Yes.
And maybe you can totally loved and would like to recommend anyone coming, especially from America.
Where to go?
Yes.
Well, that's a hard one because I'll almost certainly offend somebody. I will say what I have enjoyed the most, not what I would recommend. So first of all, I really do think your national park reserves, the Masai Mara, Laikipia, Barano, Amboseli, are really extraordinary. I mean, just extraordinary. There's nothing like it anyplace else in the world. And I think your motto here is a magical Kenya. They are magical. They are magical. And I think I have been out to the community conservancies and the reserves probably 15 times since I've been here.
Thank you.
The second place that I quite like is Lake Victoria. Homa Bay, Kisumu, Kakamega. Lake Victoria is beautiful. The islands are spectacular. And then I'll say one from this morning. I think people ought to come to Eldoret and E10, particularly if you're a runner in America or you're interested in sports or athletics. This is the home of the champions. I think that's Eldoret's motto, right?
The 50th city.
And so I think it's really quite something to see the community of athletes and sponsors and partners and managers. And then, some of what the women runners are doing around, gender-based violence and trying to reduce gender-based violence, and FGM here is very admirable. So I've enjoyed my trip here.
Thank you. Maybe after visiting Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu, and Elgeyo Marakwet, maybe you're planning to come back, one of them?
I may well come back.
Yes.
I've got a few more counties I'd like to visit for the first time. But I was very impressed with all 3 counties. 2 weeks ago, I was in Kisii, and I had never been to Kisii before, and I thought Kisii was amazing. So, every place I go, I find something that's quite unique. And you might remember my presentation called Why Africa? Why Kenya? Why invest in Africa? Why invest in Kenya? And now I've sort of, I think, included the governors. So why Africa? Why Kenya? Why Washington? Why Africa?
Eldoret.
Why Kenya? Why Eldoret?
Yes.
And so I think everyone's trying to, because every county has something different to offer for industry, for cultural exchange, for education. So it's a marvelously and wonderful, diverse country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Balozi.
Thank you
for
very
making
much.
time to speak to CAST TV and our listeners.
Thank you very
who are
much.
listening to us through radio.
Thank you very much.
Kongoi, kongoi mising chitab college noto ko kiongindetab emetab America eng emoni noto ko Meg Whitman noto kikure kora Margaret eng emetab Kenya. Ako eng betab ran kakumwaun kityo rutoito noto nekayai eng counties choto chebo Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu ak Elgeyo Marakwet. Komwaun inendet kole mi tuguk choto chechang chemeche koib ku emetab America noto ko ngalekab partnership eng ngalekab boisionik choto chebo bandab tai. Kou notok chitab kalenjin ako yoto kakeit let eng ngalalet noto nekakinyoru nebo agenge eng agenge ak inendet Balozi anan kiyokindetab emetab America anendet ko Isaac Kogei.